Welcome to the introduction of the two-umpire system. Today we're going to focus on the plate umpire within the two-man system. As always, guys, please feel free to like and share the video, especially share it with guys that you think are going to take something from this and that would benefit. For anybody that is a new umpire watching, if you have not watched our first plate mechanics video, please go and watch that video before watching this one, as it's going to fill in a lot of gaps before you get to this. Otherwise, we're going to get started, and we're going to talk about some different, we have two different sections, and we're going to talk about no runners on base and then runners on base. For the no runners on base, we're going to talk about clearing the catcher, fly ball coverage and fair foul, responsibilities if your partner goes out, following the ball, ground balls, and then overthrows. And then with runners on, we're going to talk about fly ball coverage, fair foul, rotations, double plays, rundowns, and the tag up of a runner on third base. First things we're going to talk about is clearing the catcher. As you can see here, the umpire does a really good job of clearing the catcher. You always want to clear on the left side of the catcher like this umpire does, and that is to prevent any contact with the catcher on any plays that might occur. Now we're going to get into fly ball coverage and fair foul. The plate umpire has in the infield anything down the third baseline and anything up to the red line on the diagram here on the right side of your screen. Past that red line now becomes the base umpire's responsibility to take anything fair foul. On fly ball coverage, something that we're taught is that if it's not a trouble ball in right field, the base umpire is going to give that call up to the plate umpire, and then the plate umpire is going to take that call. Otherwise, anything to the left field side of the diamond, the plate umpire has from the get-go. And you want to make sure that you're communicating, if you're the base umpire, in some way, shape, or form, whether it's in your pregame or during the game and it's a verbal communication or a nonverbal communication that you are going out, just so your partner doesn't get left out to dry and that you guys are showing that you guys are in sync. The responsibility now of the plate umpire, if your partner does go out, in this video, the plate umpire does a very good job of clearing the catcher, getting out, and he stays on the right side, the first base side of the pitcher's mound. That is a big thing that you really want to stay focused on. Is you don't want to run over the mound because you're going to trip and you're going to fall, and you do not want to assume that your partner is going to make it back to the plate. Your job is to take that runner all the way to any of the bases that he may advance to. The next thing we're going to talk about is fouling the ball. So right here we have a base hit into right field. Base umpire comes in, and you have the plate umpire coming up that first base line, and then he does tail off into foul territory and goes back to home plate once the play is over. He does a really good job of fouling that ball. It's not going to change as far as the responsibility of taking the ball to the outfield and seeing the play develop. No matter where the ball's hit, he's still going to come out from behind the plate. He's going to clear the catcher on the left-hand side, and he's going to follow that ball. We're going to get into some ground balls here with nobody's on. As you can see, the plate umpire here takes that base runner all the way up almost to the 45 line. The biggest emphasis is that you're set and stationary when the play is happening at first base. It's not necessarily important to get to the 45. That's your goal. That's where you would want to be. However, it is not the most important thing that you're going to focus on. Again, with nobody on base, your responsibility is to watch for runners lane interference as that runner is going down to first base. Another thing that we're going to talk about here is the overthrows. Fundamentally, the plate umpire has all dead ball responsibility on an overthrow. So as you see here in the video, he takes that ball by tailing off of the foul line. And as you can see, we actually have a ball that goes out of play in this situation. So both umpires do a very good job of communicating that the ball is out of play. And then they award bases appropriately. Now we're going to get into the mentality of a plate umpire when there are runners on base.
Thanks, Sean. So a lot of our concepts when there are runners on base will stay the same, but a couple things are going to change. And first and foremost, the biggest change is going to be how we divvy up the outfield in terms of fly ball coverage and fair foul responsibility. Fair foul is very simple. You have all fair foul responsibility. It all belongs to you, and you're the only person on the baseball field in position to make a ruling on it. So it's always important to own fair foul and be right on top of it. Now, in terms of how we split up the outfield for catch-no-catch coverage, this can get a little complicated. If the outfielders are going towards the line and it becomes any semblance of a fair foul decision, it is critical that the plate umpire takes over, owns the situation, and takes responsibility for the ball, because the base umpire cannot make a ruling, won't be in position to make a ruling for fair foul. And now in terms of what we're going to communicate, if the ball is going down the left field line and the plate umpire feels like he needs to take control over that catch-no-catch, he's going to say, "I got the ball." Now, over in right field, it's going to be, "I'm on the line." Why is that important? That's because when the plate umpire takes coverage of catch-no-catch in the outfield, that could make changes to rotation coverage. And we're going to talk more in depth of rotations later. But simply put, when we rotate to third base, we can still rotate to third while taking coverage for a catch-no-catch down the left field line. That's why we say, "I got the ball." But now going to right field, the situation is different because we cannot take a fair foul responsibility over in right field while covering a rotation at third base. That's why it's, "I'm on the line, I'm committed to this line, and third base is yours if something happens over there." So now we're going to talk about rotations really quickly. Rotations only occur in certain specific situations. They happen when there's a runner on first base only, or a runner's on first and third base and a base hit occurs. The one other situation is when there are runners on first and second base and a fly ball is hit where the runner on second tags up to go to third base. Those are the only situations where we are going to go up to third base on a rotation. And it's really important that when you get these alignments of runners, that you and your partner signal to each other before the next at-bat starts. That way the entire crew is on the same page in terms of where everyone needs to go. Now, in any other placement of runners, bases loaded, second or third, second only and whatnot, you're not going anywhere beyond the dirt circle around home plate. So once you signal to your partner about staying home, you do not have any rotations to worry about. It's also vital as a crew to communicate during the play as well, right? If you're in a situation where you're rotating to third base, you must, as the plate umpire, tell your partner, "I've got third if he comes," or "I've got third if he tags," if it's a tag-up situation. Or on the other hand, "I'm staying home," because that is going to dictate the movements of your partner, of the base umpire, which we're going to talk about in depth on Thursday. So now that we all have that down, let's take a look at a couple plays we have here. The first play, the first video, is a runner on first only with a clean base hit to the outfield. We're going to see the plate umpire immediately hustles up the third baseline, communicating, "I've got third if he comes." And now we're going to bring back some core concepts we talked about in our first presentation in this series. And it's all going to come into play here, so it should sound pretty familiar. The plate umpire works hard to go up the line so that he's ahead of his only runner. And even though it's clear that he won't advance to third, he moves up there so that he won't get burned if something out of the ordinary happens and he has to take a play there. Now, also notice that the plate umpire stopped short of the third base cutout, and that's not an accident. Remember in our earlier presentation that we said that if we're responsible for only one runner, we do not enter cutouts to take plays until there's both a ball and a runner. The same rules for the base umpires apply to plate umpires when they're rotating. And here we have neither, so the plate umpire does a good job of stopping short at the entry point, not entering the cutout unnecessarily. And finally on the first video, I want everyone to focus on what happens all the way at the end of the play here. Once the ball comes back in, it's secure in the infield, the plate umpire is actually communicating to his partner, I'm going home, I'm going back. And notice how the base umpire now covers for his partner going back, and the crew is perfectly in sync with each other as they go to their next positions. It shows that this professional crew is on the same page at all times and they're comfortable working with each other. Let's take a look at the next play. So in this play, we actually have runners on first and third base, and we're going to have a double in the gap. That's easily going to score at least one. Now, this is important. Because we're sure that the runner on third is going to score without a play, we are initiating a rotation to third base. Once the runner on third scores, he effectively disappears. So this becomes essentially a runner on first only situation. The plate umpire takes a step or two towards third to go through with the rotation, but then he does an amazing job reading that the runner on first is getting to third base without a play easily. In fact, he might actually score now. So he's going to communicate, I'm staying home, because he remembered his core principle of staying ahead of the one runner he's responsible for. Now, if the plate umpire felt like there would have been a play at third base, he is going to go through the rotation, and if there is a play, he'll enter the cutout to take that play. It's an excellent job by both guys on this crew. Really good reads all around. So now we talked about rotations on base hits, but it doesn't end there. There are other cases where we have to at least initiate or start a rotation, even though we don't think the play is going to end up being a base hit. The most common example of this is going to be a fly ball into the outfield. So here on this play, we see a fly ball to right field, and notice the plate umpire is only rotating a quarter of the way up to the third baseline. And this isn't an accident either. The reason for that is because he's mirroring the runner on first base, who also went up a quarter of the way towards second base. This way, the plate umpire is not working unnecessarily too far up towards third, and he can be in a position, if an errant throw back might go out of play on the first base side. So it's extremely important to have a strong sense of awareness of who you're responsible for and their most likely actions where you'll think they'll end up. So now we're going to talk about how we're going to operate on double plays. And this topic is pretty complicated. There are multiple schools of thought, and there's definitely no set in stone way to do this. That's why everything Sean and I are about to talk about right now must be pre-gamed, because you need to be prepared for how much you're going to get involved or potentially get involved in a double play situation. So nonetheless, with a runner on first only, and we have a double play where we go to second, where the infield is going to second and then going to first, our first move is going to have to be towards third base, because the rotation has to at least be initiated. That's common all around. Where we start to get in a bit of a gray area is how we're going to handle a potential force play slide rule interference at second base. Some crews will give it entirely to the base umpire. In professional baseball, all across the minor leagues, this is completely the base umpire's responsibilities. Across amateur baseball, that may change. In some pre-games, the base umpire may want the plate umpire to help out with interference at second base. Assist him if he misses something, give him an extra set of eyes. Some crews may want the plate umpire to take it all the way. What's most important is that the crew is comfortable with what they're doing and they know beforehand what's going to happen and who's going to be responsible for what. So now we have a ground ball, we're initiating our rotation. Once the runner on first is out, it no longer becomes a rotation situation. So it's important that you work your way back towards home plate in that direction, because you may be having to help for interference. 2, you may have to help with a pulled foot at first base, and in an extremely unlikely case, you could still have runner's lane by the batter runner. And on top of that, you have overthrow with that ball potentially going towards that first base cutout. So it is vital that a crew is prepared for this play before it happens.
And Nobu, I know there's one thing that we're taught here at the college level, one thing that we're always told is you have to have your eyes on the play at second base, just in order to be there for like an assistance type deal. So if a coach does go ask your partner, hey, I think that was force play slide rule, you at least have something to give your partner. So, again, that's a pregame thing. That's something that I always cover in a pregame is with my partner. So.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sean. So many times on double plays, the base umpire has to take his eye off the play earlier than he feels comfortable with. So it's really important to be a good partner and keep a pair of eyes on the play at second base. So we're going to talk briefly about rundowns. There are certain situations as the plate umpire, we are going to help our partner with rundowns, but not always. So there's certain caveats that we have to respect. First and foremost, we only help at first and third base, and it's only going to be in the cutout area. We're not anything at second, anything in the middle of the baseline, anything like that. That's going to be our partner's responsibility completely in the two-man system. The other rule we have to respect is that we only help with the lead runner only. Reasoning being is that there is no situation in the two-man system where your partner, the base umpire, can help you out by covering the plate. So it is critical if there is a lead runner that has no play on him that we stay home, respecting the fact that he may try to score. The other important thing to remember is that when we're approaching the first or third base cutouts, when we come into the area where we are in a position to help, we need to do it when the rundown is going away from that base, when the runner is going towards second base. Reason being is that the last thing we want to do is enter in that shaded area, enter that cutout area, while a runner is sliding in there in a rundown situation. That's a case where you're asking for a double call to happen. You're asking to be moving, making a call. It's just a situation you want to be avoiding. So if you're going up to help on a rundown and the rundown is going towards the corners, stop short, let it happen. If it ends right there, let your partner take over. Now, if it starts to go away, starts to go towards second base, then feel free to come in. It's important to be really patient in these rundowns to be a good partner. And last thing, also very important, you've got to communicate. I've got this end when you're coming in to help. Again, you want to avoid the double calls with your base umpire. And if you get a tag right on the edge of that little gray area where you're not sure if it's your call or your partner's call, it's vital that you and your partner both visually and verbally communicate before we start making a call, because you never want an even number of umpires making a call on a baseball field. Final thing we're going to hit very briefly is going to be a tag up of the runner on third, scoring with less than 2 outs. So in a situation where there are less than 2 outs and there's a runner on third tagging up to attempt to score, if we do not have fair foul coverage, catch no catch coverage. So if this ball is nowhere near the foul line, what we're going to do is we're going to move catcher's box extended left. Now, there is no concrete point on the field where you have to move. It's just any distance away from the catcher's box extended where you can create an angle where you can easily see the ball and the runner tagging, but also respecting the fact that you can also make it home for a potential play at the plate. So it's important to be aware of how much further you're moving from the plate and to make sure you can make it back. Now, if we have a fair foul coverage on this play, everything changes. If we have a fair foul catch no catch coverage that we have to take over down the left field line, like we said earlier, we're obviously going to communicate. We're going to say, I got the ball. But then we're going to end up straddling the line. There, it's pretty easy to get the tag up because the runner and the ball and the outfielder will all be in the same field of vision. It's just important you don't get too far up the line and you can make it back to the plate without a runner on third barreling over you. Now, where it gets really complicated is to right field. And this is where we really test the constraints of the two-man system, where if we get a catch, no catch, fair foul responsibility down right field, we're obviously going to communicate, I'm on the line, tell our partner we have it covered. Then we need to obviously get up the line and be straddling the line, but it is critical we don't get too far up, because once we are sure we have a completed catch, we have our catch, we need to turn around, see the tag up of the runner on third, and then turn our bodies and make it back towards the plate for a play at the plate. And for a split second, you'll probably be in that throwing lane as well. So it's really important to be aware of where exactly you are on the diamond, and you are in position where you can complete all of your responsibilities without getting in the way of anything. It's like I said, it's really, you're testing the limits of the two-man system. It's never easy, but the umpires that are always doing the big games, that are always moving up, they find a way to get it done. And as far as the players are concerned, as far as the coaches are concerned on the field, they don't care how hard it is. They see whether you're getting it done or not. So these are really the situations where you can show how much you can do in the two-umpire system.
And as always, guys, that wraps up what we're talking about today. Feel free to share, like the page. Just some key things to take out of this. Coaches are going to notice hustle. If you're looking at moving up through the ranks, coaches are going to notice hustle. Your signers are going to notice hustle. That's probably one of the best compliments that you can get as an umpire, is that you're showing a tremendous amount of hustle on the ball field. You're not walking. It's a quick jog. It's a brief jog. It's a sprint at times, but it's controlled. So as always, feel free to give the page a like and give us a shout out. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.